Welcome back to Miss Liz IBG. Yesterday, the 10th of June 2026, something happened in Hong Kong that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. A 48-year-old mother fell from her flat in Taikoo, Shing. Then 10 hours later, in the same flat, her 12-year-old daughter did the same. It is reported that they had argued over academic issues before it happened. Now, I'm not here to talk about education system in Hong Kong because I've been talking about it for so long, so many times here. I even homeschooled my 2 kids myself back then to stand against the system. I'm here today because I've spent 18 years teaching, talking, even counseling students. Many of them are from Hong Kong, who told me things they wouldn't want to tell their parents. So today, I'm going to say those things for them. Before I jump into what my students told me, let me give you some real numbers here. Of course, the data in 2026 isn't out yet, but here's what I have known. Over the past 5 years, 131 students in Hong Kong took their own lives. And beneath those deaths, the number of children in silent crisis is far larger. Hong Kong's crisis hotline received over 85,000 calls in just the first 8 months of 2025. And for every call that was made, how many children said nothing at all? There are numbers that we actually don't even know because many of them choose to keep those thoughts in their heads. How many are sitting in a classroom, going through the emotions, telling themselves they're not good enough because of their underperformed academic results, yet not telling anything to a single adult? This is not just mental health, puberty. This is the system. Why I said that? Because I know. And because some students told me how they think. So one of my students wants to look at me in the middle of our Zoom lessons, and then he asked me this: Miss Liz, why do I have to memorize all those rock names in geography? Be my future boss even asked me that. Will my business partner care? Why can't we learn cooking, how to manage money, things that actually matter in real life? He was asking a completely reasonable question that none of his teachers, however, had taken seriously. He told me that school felt like an endless tunnel. 8 hours of lessons. After that, tutorials. Then homework, revision, of course, dinner, shower, go to bed. Wake up, repeat, every single day. And most of what he was being asked to absorb had nothing to do with the life he was actually going to live. Think about it this way. We would never accept this as an adult, yeah? Like if a colleague was working 12 hours a day, every day, then no rest, no sense of purpose in what they were doing. We would be like saying that person is heading for burnt out. But think about the children. We ask this of children. Yeah? And when they crack under the pressure, we call it weakness. You should do it. Everyone is doing it. Why can't you? Like that. Another student, a younger girl, she was preparing for her P5 assessment for the so-called secondary school places allocation, like that. So if you're not familiar with this assessment, it's basically a school-based thing which will be used to determine like what secondary school, what band, what grade of that secondary school the child is going to. So because, the exam, normally the primary school kid, they will have half day. So the students' parents actually arranged an other half day for tutorials, 5 to 6 hours in a day, something like that. And of course, such a long hours of learning and studying, her brain had gone blank. That's completely normal, yeah, so exhausting. So she also had been daydreaming that day, perhaps. As a result, her tutor shouted at her at the tutorial center. Then she came to my lesson after that. And I noticed something was just not right. I just looked at her on Zoom. Then I said how she felt. You must be very exhausted. You feel like it never stops, yeah? Like no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. And like it's no end of it. I know you're very tired. I understand. Simply just like that. And that moment, she broke down in tears. Of course, we talked. I listened to her, to comfort her a little bit. Then later, she felt slightly better. She asked me this question that I will never forget. Why is living so hard? Why is being a kid not happy? Will my life get better when I grow up? Will I have more control when I become an adult? Such a young child is already asking whether life is worth continuing. So another student, a teenage girl, she's working really hard. She cares about her studies. But the knowledge, according to her, just wouldn't go in her head. History dates, names, countries, events. Because to her, none of those make sense to her. And then she asked me, what's the purpose of memorizing all these? How does it make me a better person, whether or not it's doing business or as an employee? What will it have to do with my future job? Pretty much like that. And then there's also writing. So one time, her exam scope, we required her to write something like a proposal letter to the school principal, like arguing why it's better to adopt dogs from rescue center than to buy from a pet shop, pretty much like that. Then she was like staring at the task on the screen and asked me this, Miss Liz, to be honest, I have never been to a dog rescue center. I don't know what it's like. How can I write something with feelings about like the things that I have never experienced? Wouldn't it be more meaningful for us as students to actually go and visit one first before writing this task? See? This system had nearly everything taught on paper, while students nowadays actually want more practical and authentic learning that they can really use in their real lives. And even worse, not that they had to memorize all the things, on paper, and they were being like examined, tested, given assessment to see how good they could memorize those things, which they will not, a lot of them will not be used in their future lives. So these students are not failing. It's the system that fails them. And it's not just the students, it's also the parents, because the parents also find the system such a torture. So, I know where this thinking comes from. Of course, I'm a parent myself. I understand the fear behind it. The deep, genuine love that says, I want my kids to be safe. I want the future to be secure. I worried they cannot get a good job, etc. But here's a question that I really need to ask you as a parent. The good grades, good university, good job formula, is it even working anymore? Of course, we all need education, yeah? Now, full-time graduate jobs vacancies in Hong Kong, to be honest, dropped by 60%. From 80,000 available positions in 2022 down to just 31,000 in 2025. Hong Kong's own Secretary for Labour confirmed this in May 2026 and specifically pointed to AI as the driving force behind the collapse in entry-level jobs. The jobs that were meant to be the reward, especially to those students who were promised that they work hard, they could get a good job in the future. All the end of that pressure, gone. The job disappeared. And here is the hard truth. When it comes to knowledge, memorization, information, no human can win AI. Am I right? So what actually makes our children stand out? I have said that so many times. Communication, resilience, adaptability, creativity, emotional intelligence. The ability to connect with people, to solve problems that have no textbook answer, to sit with uncertainty and still move forward. These are the things no algorithm can replace. And these are the things that brought in children who feel safe. Children who were heard. Children who were allowed to ask questions without being shouted at. Children who knew, without a single doubt, that they were loved for who they are, not for what they scored, not for what grade their assessment outcome shows. We cannot raise that kind of child while communicating to them every single day that their worth is just a number, it's just a grade, it's just an exam result. I understand that in Hong Kong, it's not simple to push back against the system. Even right now, questioning the pressure can feel like very dangerous. But I want you to do one thing. Think about it right now. Go back to the very beginning, when the time you found out you had your child in your belly. Go back to the date when they were born. What did you want them for in that first moment? Not having 100%, not having good score, not a rank. You just wanted them to be healthy. You just wanted them to be happy. You wanted to hold them and feel that they were safe in this world. You wanted the smile on the little face, that small, completely pure face. This is what you wanted, yeah? And even now. And I'm telling you, as someone who has held space for children, who could not say this to their own parents, nothing is worth trading for that. Not a DSE score, not a place at Hong Kong U, not a graduate salary, nothing. Academic results are one small part of a human life. They are not the whole life. The most important thing, always, about everything else, is that your child is happy, alive, that they feel genuinely loved, that they know in the deepest part of themselves that they have a home in you, no matter what they score, no matter how they fail, no matter what. And that is the relationship that holds everything else up. So, if you're a parent, please hear this. Your child's sense of being truly loved unconditionally is your most important job, not their grades. And if you're a young person watching this, I know you're exhausted, that you feel like you're never enough. Please listen. You are enough, exactly as you are. And for anything in this video has landed for you, you can leave a comment below, share it with a parent, a teacher, a friend who needs to hear this. I'll see you in the next one.